Today we're doing an installation of Ricochet aluminum armor on a 2016 Yamaha Kodiak 700. With most of our sets, you're going to start with the front piece first. This set you're going to set in place. There's already mounts in the front bumper here. Those are the 6mm bolts with the washers. Oops, I just dropped one. This part is powder coated from Yamaha, so be real careful not to cross thread these. In fact, they're kind of stubborn going in. There we go. Like I say, be real careful not to cross thread these with the powder coating and the threads. Okay, you can start those and just let the plate hang. The rest of the mounting points on this plate are via our bolts and nut plates. With all of our nut plates or clamps, you're going to want to put some anti-seize. There's a locking feature, and it makes life a lot easier if you put some anti-seize on the bolt threads. So a little anti-seize, and by a little I mean a little. Doesn't take much. A little on the bolt thread. You're going to take the nut plate up and through, line it up with the hole, and start the bolt. I'm going to do that in 3 locations on this plate. This installation is very similar to the first generation Grizzly 700. Actually, it uses a lot of the same parts. So if you have one of those machines, this video will serve your machine as well. And right now we're just starting everything. We're not going to tighten anything until we get some of the other plates in place. Okay, so those are all started. We can move on to the next plate. The next plate is installed via the clamps, and then it has 2 bolts to reattach your fender liners here. So we're going to start with clamps first. And again, we're going to put anti-seize on the bolts. The plate will tuck behind the plastic. Reach in and get a clamp in there and a bolt started. And then the plate should hang, and you can just work on starting everything else and getting the plate lined up. Okay, that's all the bolts for the second plate. So on this set, we can actually go ahead and tighten the top piece now and the middle piece. The rear piece has a fair amount of adjustment. Usually we wait till the end, but on this one, it's actually not a bad idea to just go ahead and start tightening things now. So for the top piece, you just want to bring it down, seat it all the way back, and just work your way down. Make sure the plate's square and centered. Now we need to tighten our 8mm bolts. These are T40 Torx. You might need to get in here with a wrench to grab the nut on the nut plate. It's easily done through the side. And one more. Okay. So that plate's on, and now we can go ahead and bring this plate up, butt it right up against it, and pick any one of your bolts to tighten first, and that'll hold the plate in place. It's not a bad idea to crisscross them. Okay, so that takes care of the first 2 plates. We're going to move on to the rear plate now. This plate again uses 4 of our clamps. A little anti-seize as always. Take the clamp through around the tube and line it up with the slot. Get it started, you can let it hang and work on the rest. Okay, all those are started. Now, kind of the same thing. You're going to bring it all the way up. Pick your favorite bolt and tighten her down. Okay, that takes care of the belly skids. While I'm down on the floor, let's do the rear arms. So these use 2 clamps and then a nut and a bolt. So we're going to start with the clamps. These are actually usually easier installed with the machine on the ground rather than hoisted up like this, but we still have some other stuff to do, so we're going to leave it here, and I'm going to suffer. Okay, now we can go ahead and move on to the nut and bolt. So it's going to be your washer or your bolt, and then a washer. It's going to go through your skid plate, and then the little tab in the back, followed by a washer. I can get my hand in there. So this is easier done on the ground. And then the nut. You know what? I'm going to have to set that down to do those. So we're just going to come back to that because we have to do the rear piece, which is easier done with the machine on the ground as well. So we're just going to set these in place and leave them loose for now and come back to them. Okay, so those are started well enough for now. Like I say, we will come back to those. Let's go ahead and do the front A-arms. Okay, front A-arms use our clamps as well. So our typical practice of anti-seize on the threads still applies. So with these, set the arm into position. And it's actually easier to start one of the uppers first. And then you can just let the plate hang. If you install lower, it's just going to fall off. Okay, so everything's in place now. Now is what you want to check is clearance. So you're going to want to turn the machine to full lock. Make sure you have clearance around the brake caliper and the spindle here. And go ahead and, once you're satisfied with your clearance, tighten one down. Get the plate snug so it's not moving around on you. Check it again, make sure you're happy, and then turn it the other way. And check your clearance there. We actually were kind of close up here, so we need to scoot it out just a hair. There we go. I like that a little better. So let's tighten it down. And check it again. Okay, our clearance is still good here. And we're still good over here. Okay, so that's good. So now we can go ahead and tighten the rest of the bolts on the plate. Okay, so that plate's on. Now we can go ahead and do the exact same thing for the other side. Actually, I don't like the way that clamp's sitting. That clamp rotated on me. Oh. Okay, so I didn't pay attention to my hardware here. you need to pay attention to your hardware. I have the wrong clamps on the back side of this. So it's your 7/8 clamps on the rear and your 1 1/4 on the front. Hey, that looks a lot better. Yeah, much better with the correct hardware. Okay. So again, 7/8 clamps on the bottom side, the 1 1/4. Yep, 1 1/4 on the top. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that for the other side now. So again, 1 1/4 on the top. You always want to start with the top clamp. And the 7/8 clamps on the rear. And same principle, go ahead and tighten one down. Plate snug so it doesn't move, and we're checking clearance again. And we're good. And we're good. So we can go ahead and tighten her down. Okay, so I guess that leaves us our floorboards now. Now the floorboards, you have to remove these 4 factory bolts on both sides. And I'm going to cheat and use an impact on those. Okay, all the factory bolts are out. Okay, so these are just nuts and bolts and spacers. I need to go get me a different Torx bit. Okay, so for the floorboard skids, it's a 6mm bolt, which uses a T30 Torx bit, compared to our 8mm bolts used everywhere else, which use a T40. So, just for reference, you need a T30 and a T40. Where'd my ratchet go? So it's going to be the bolt, washer, your skid plate. There are lefts and rights, so hold it up, make sure it fits. Obviously, that doesn't fit, so make sure you got the right side. And you're just gonna line it up with the existing hole already there in the frame and start the bolt. Oh, I forgot the spacer. There's a spacer that goes there. Don't forget the spacer. So, washer and bolt, spacer, and then line it up. And the bolts are long, so you can actually get the spacer in there and get everything started and see what you're doing. So you only need a couple threads just to get everything started. If you go too far, you're not going to be able to get the spacer in there. Helps if you don't have butter fingers either. Okay, so all those are started, and as you can see, we have a slight interference here, so we actually need to loosen up this plate, this middle plate here, and just readjust stuff. I guess I got a little carried away tightening things down. But that's not a big deal. Actually, you know what? That needs to go on first. I guess I should have looked at the instructions. Okay, yeah, so floorboard's going first, apparently. Alright, now I guess we can go ahead and put this guy back on. Okay, now we can go ahead and tighten this middle plate down again. Okay, so now that those are on, you need to put a washer and a nut on the top side of those bolts just to retain the floorboard. And you can easily slide those on top. That's why the bolts may seem super long, but there's for a reason. Okay, so that takes care of that. Now the only thing left to do before we drop it down is to install this nut and bolt on this fender well plastic here. And that's pretty straightforward. This is going to be the bolt and the washer. Just line it up. Slide it through. put a washer on the back side. Hope we can turn your tire and get it out of the way. And these are both 10 millimeter sockets. So 10 millimeter wrench, 10 millimeter socket, and let's tighten those down. Okay, so that's that. So now we need to drop it down so we can finish installing the rear A-arms, and we have this piece to install as well. Okay, to finish off the installation of the rear A-arms, it's a nut and bolt. So it'll be a bolt and a washer. You're going to slide it through. There's a tab right here on your A-arm. I'm going to slide it through both of those. And you're going to slide another washer on, and then follow that up with a nut. It will be the exact same thing for both sides. And again, those are 10 millimeter sockets. So go ahead and tighten those down now. And once you get those tight, if you can get your wrench out, then you can go ahead and tighten up the clamps. That's with the T40 Torx bit. Okay, and that's that. Now I was going to show you the installation of this rear piece here. This is just a protection for the CV boots, but it appears the Yamaha has added some brackets there. Apparently they had the same idea that we did, so that kind of interferes with the way that mounts up. So that doesn't fit. So we may have a different part for that in the future. But anyways, that's the installation for the 2016 Yamaha Kodiak 700. Thank you for watching.